Okay guys, here's another little video for you. I've created this form to help us think about historical events as we go through the course in world history, thinking about them as stories themselves. I think we can kind of remember stories easier than just random facts, and so if we can build these facts and people into stories themselves, we'll have a better job of remembering everything that we cover. And it will also help us when we take our characters and create stories and we have to make a believable situation or plot line taking our character into a historical event. So this sheet will help us to plan those things out. So for each time we go through a different historical event or period, we'll need to fill out one of these documents. So at the top here I'm asking for the event and then the important dates associated with that event. And then we'll need a description. So this would be kind of the little plot explaining or summarizing that event. And then we need to outline the major players or characters. So you've got traditional protagonists and maybe antagonists that would be involved that probably show up in your description. And then we'll also need to have the ideas of themes and big ideas, and that's why these are the historical events that we study. If there weren't big ideas or themes associated with these time periods, then they wouldn't be relevant today. So there must be big ideas and themes that are consistently relevant today, whether they deal with humanity or I guess conflicts that we deal with in today's time, so that we study those hopefully to understand ourselves a little bit better. And then, because I'm a visual person, I think most people are, there are usually defining images associated with these time periods. I know that's a little abstract, so let's scroll down and I'll show you a clearer example. So here I've taken that same form and filled it out with regard to this event, the American Revolution. Underneath that I have a basic beginning and ending dates, and then just a little note there that it began at Lexington. And then I have a description. It says the Declaration of Independence, written in 1776, inspired by Enlightenment philosophy. Americans, let's go ahead and change that there. Americans fought for independence from Britain because they felt the British imposed intolerable, just conditions they could not tolerate upon them. Americans won. French helped American colonists because France hated England. And I know that's just a very, very basic description of the American Revolution. I probably need to know more than that, but that's just a general outline of that event. And then same thing with major players. There's so many more people that we could list. This is just a starting point. So we have George III, who's playing for Britain, and then George Washington, so kind of our protagonist playing for America, and then another person, Thomas Jefferson, one of the authors, founding fathers, Declaration of Independence. So big ideas. Coming back to the ideas of themes, no taxation without representation, and we would still have that same sort of issue when people don't like to have other people make decisions for them without having a voice. Freedom is worth fighting for, and that could be a possible topic that you're asked to write about. The majority isn't always right, especially in a democratic society. We tend to go with what the democracy decides, or what the greatest amount of people decide, and so maybe we think about whether or not that's right. Sometimes breaking the rules might be the right thing to do. I can see that being a writing prompt that you might see. And the power of ideas, maybe ideas that even today that we try to understand from centuries ago to interpret for our own ideas. And then there's also kind of a paradox here. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, with the idea that the enemy of Britain became our friend because Britain was our enemy. And lastly, we have a defining image here, and this is Washington crossing the Delaware. This is something that you guys could copy and paste in here, or I think if you draw that in there, it would also be powerful. And what I've done is I've linked some information about that image so I could go and find out where that came from. And so this is, that date, don't get confused, that date's when it was created, but this is not 1851. We know that from the other document. In this document, it tells us our time periods are 1775 to 1783. So going back to this is an oil painting. This is the size of it, so it's very large, 149 by 255 inches. And then down here it has our description. And so this is the painter, and he's depicting Washington's attack on the Hessians at Trenton on December 25th, 1776. So that's interesting. Success in America and in Germany. This painter began his first version of the subject in 1849. So this is just some general information that lets us know what we're looking at as far as the defining image. And as far as creating our fictional story, I could easily see my protagonist maybe being one of these characters that's on This looks like a, kind of almost like a boat or canoe that Washington's using to cross the Delaware River. So anyway, that's just a quick explanation of the document that we'll fill out every time that we come across a historical event so that we can remember it and help to use it when we're creating our fictional narratives.